welcome. My name is Dan. And this is the beginning of an introductory course that we call Becoming a Journey Guide. And by a journey, we mean a meditation, a guided meditation that is about 5 minutes in length, is highly transmissive, and we'll talk about what that means, and therefore we believe highly impactful. And it's designed to allow you to share and communicate with your audiences. And it's also designed to provide content and understanding so your audience can debrief afterwards. In other words, sharing their experiences with one another. If you haven't had a chance, take a look at our book called Wake Up Curious. And this book will give you some insights to what we're trying to do in the world. The vision statement for Wake Up Curious is very simple. Deeper connections with self, others, and the universe. And presumably this resonates with you, and that's why you're here. And most likely, you're some kind of personal growth practitioner, a wellness coach, an energy healer, anything in between and beyond. So I invite you to enjoy this overall journey with us as we show you what seems to work for us with others. We believe strongly in the democratization of spirituality. There's not a time anymore. It's too urgent to have secrets and mystery schools. It's all open source. So we're sharing everything we know with you, and no doubt we will learn from you as well. Lee, it's so great to be here with you to present this course on Becoming a Journey Guide as part of the Wakuri system. I wonder if you'd like to tell our audience a bit about your background.
Great, Dan. It's delightful to be here with you. My background is over 20 years of integrative energy work and learning in a number of methodologies, ranging from shamanism to Reiki, to Brazilian techniques, and also yogic techniques. I'm also a meditation teacher. And for me, all of these things are really integrative in the sense of how we're working with Wakuri, because it's welcoming of all techniques and it brings many different backgrounds. With your diverse background coming from, Aikido and many different experiences that you had, I find the same, that I can actually integrate my background into the Wakuri method and how we work together through this system. So for me, it's very open and all-embracing. No matter where you're coming from, it enables people to quickly connect.
Thank you, Lee, and I think that's a really important point. There's nothing about these methodologies that are religious or even, strictly traditionally spiritual, right? And so everyone's welcome, and everyone's expertise and everyone's experience and diversity and inclinations and points of view are absolutely welcome. We call this, one of our purposes is just the democratization of spirituality. So it isn't just a thing for certain people. During my career, I've met many, many people who delve deeply into the energetic realms, but they are in the closet about it. They don't talk about it because they're scared, or maybe it's different. And what Lee has pointed out is part of our process. Everyone is extraordinary, and everyone has a way to access their deeper, higher self and being, and their knowledge of the universe. But some people are still learning and maybe a little scared about it, or a little nervous. Probably most of you taking this course are already well on that path, but you may still be harboring some doubts or uncertainties about your strength or your power to share and to help others heal and learn. Our experience is that everyone has this capacity, and that's why we're offering this course, right? To amplify your existing strengths and knowledge, to perhaps add a few new insights.
Absolutely.
But we don't want you to think about us as teachers. We want you to think about us as facilitators and catalysts. So Lee and I are going to start a discussion a minute after I comment on my background. But really, what we're asking you to self-direct is be in the conversation in your own mind. You have all the wisdom in the world hidden in the middle of your heart and your soul if you don't already know that. So like Leah, I have a comprehensive, kind of complex background. I like to say that my only superpower is I know how to stumble and then get up again and just keep stumbling. So I've stumbled into many great practices over the years. Starting with Aikido, I have my black belt in Aikido. But I wasn't satisfied to know how to move and be in harmony on the dojo. I wanted to apply those principles of ki, or chi as Japanese call it, ki, life force energy, into the workplace and into my relationships. And so I spent many years experimenting and often flubbing that. But along the way, I tried many different forms of meditation, and I found a meditation form that matched my Aikido practice, even though it was from the Western theosophical tradition. So it's kind of a mishmash. The same way that Leah's described her background, I have spent some time as the CEO of the Deepak Chopra Foundation, and I've worked with Ken Wilber and Mike Murphy from Esalen and those kinds of Barbara Marx Hubbard, wonderful people. And they've all been incredible mentors for me. As we find our way into what does it mean to be a journey guide, I please want you to understand that we stumbled into it. It wasn't a plan. It just emerged. Right? It was sort of waiting to be found and expressing itself. The way I've been saying it recently, when people say, "Oh, thank you, Dan, this is really helpful," I'm like, it's not me. Okay? It may be coming through me, but it's not me.
I think you bring up a point that's really important about the method. I think the spontaneity is really key, and also sort of getting out of our own way. Allowing ourselves to really be led by the heart, be really open, and to allow ourselves to receive the information we already have within us. And that's a key part of this course, and a key part of the method itself is how we get out of our own way, just to let what is there, the wisdom that is already there, to flow through us. And that's what's really a great gift, is when we do that, we can see the flow of this information through ourselves in a transmissive way, but also see the wisdom and the flow that comes from others when we synchronize and collaborate together. So this is really an incredible part of this course, and it's also an incredible part of the journey of the Wakuri method.
Thank you, Leah. It's a really good point. And if you haven't had a chance to look at our first book, Wake Up Curious, it's on Amazon. Take a look, and it talks about the process of discovering this. And so to be clear, every single journey you will ever listen to is spontaneous. And most often, not always, but most often, so too are the topics. So the challenge is to accomplish what Leah just described. How can we be present enough in the moment to take a topic that occurs to us or that someone else gives us and not know what's going to come out of our mouths, and to trust that flow and that presencing related to the topic? There are many, many days when I'm recording journeys or giving them live where I'm totally surprised by the next phrase that comes out. And I'm actually learning, as strange as that sounds. So what a journey is not is deciding to say something and then saying it. Right? It's the opposite, to pick up on Leah's point. Of course, think about it. When you're in your highest flow with a client or a customer or an organization, or however you characterize your business practices, you're most likely not deciding ahead of time. You have a framework or training, as we do. Of course, it comes into play, but you're trying, we would think, to be present with them and their needs. This is no different. It's just in a particular form that we found is powerful. I do want to comment on the concept of transmissions. What we found is that the more spontaneous and relaxed we are with that opening and that channeling and that flowing, it's more impactful for people. And the reason we believe it is what we call, what the ancients call, transmissions, the exchange of energy across time and space, whether recorded or live, doesn't matter. So we will talk a little more about what is the transmissive journey, but this is an introduction to that whole world.
Absolutely. And one point I'd like to add to that, Dan, is In my teaching practice, so I regularly teach meditation students in the workplace and elsewhere. What I also find is that when you're really connected to a group of people through doing journeys at the Wakuri method or in other settings, what actually happens is you're listening to the resonant biofield, or you're listening to the resonant energy of what's present in the room. It's happening spontaneously, and you're giving a journey that's relevant to the people that you're in presence with and in communion with. And I think it's really amazing how you have a journey, you have the experience, and you do the feedback, which is part of the process of Wakuri. And then you find out that one of the people in the room had been focused on this particular topic and that you actually had the journey on at a different time in their life. And therefore, it's relevant to them without anyone else knowing about it. So I think this is something that Dan was just articulating, that if we're open and in the flow, these sorts of journeys can emerge and be fully appropriate for whoever's participating.
Yeah, thank you, Leah. You're speaking to what I often call the wisdom of the community or the crowd. So it's quite true that when I record a journey, even in a studio like we are now, I'm imagining the listeners. And it's certainly true, and maybe a little more obvious when we're teaching live, either online or face-to-face. One of the discussion points we wanted to cover was that this whole question of, well, it's just 5 minutes. It's very brief. And when my colleagues first asked me to create journeys that were just 5 minutes, I was frankly resistant and said, 5 minutes? I teach all weekend, or I teach in 20-minute sets or whatever. But they said, look, we're really busy guys and gals, and we only have 5 minutes, and we can't convince ourselves to do more than 5 minutes. And so I meditated on that, of course, and found a way in which that transmissive effect can be strong enough that it frankly transcends time and space. I now believe in experience. It doesn't matter whether it's 30 seconds or 1 minute or 20 minutes or a day-long meditation. It matters what is the energetic flow pattern. So we just want to, and there's many, many apps out there that are just 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And so the world is discovering that it doesn't matter how long it is, it matters what the quality of the experience is. But I want to add another piece, because not only are these journeys for people to listen to, but as Leah just intimated, they're journeys for people to debrief afterwards, to talk to one another in the afterglow of that space. And we believe that that's one of the most powerful impacts of this particular method. Imagine it, taking what is often called in the Buddhist community a Sangha, which is sacred community, and creating a cyber, or an internet version, a cyber Sangha, which is allowing people to find one another online, not to talk about the latest fashion or how they're grooming their pets or politics, but to go deep into a moment of one of these journeys or one of your journeys when you create them, and then to share with a small or a large group online in a live moment. And that turns out to be what we think and we call the shared biofield. Right? Scientists are now beginning to measure what is an energy field. The ancients have been talking about it for thousands of years. It turns out that most of us are starting to understand and experience that everyone and everything has an energy field, or scientifically now called by the NIH, biofields. And our biofields interact. And when we're talking, think about a great moment in a relationship or a friendship or with a work colleague or a small group where everything is just in harmony and inventive and creative and peaceful and safe. That would be the shared biofield in its best sense. So these are some of the background concepts. Another question that we get often, Leah, and I wonder what your response would be, is what kinds of journeys give the greatest benefits? What kind of journey topics?
So what's interesting is that the range of journeys is so diverse that, in fact, you can actually receive benefits from any kind of a journey. So as long as the group and the resonance of the group is there and the transmission is coming through, the journey can be about anything. It can be about moving through time and space. It can be about nature. It can be about inner discovery. It can be about really any topic. And through being connected to that topic and allowing yourself to move into the flow and follow the energy of that topic, it can actually have a high impact, irrespective of the diverse topics that we are currently, generating a library about. So we've had a bit of everything from the power of a wave to journey to the inner child to journey into nature. There's many, many topic areas. And I wouldn't say that one or the other is necessarily more impactful. I would actually say that it's about the resonance to that topic that generates the personal impact for each individual. So that's what makes it so unique.
Sometimes we find ourselves doing journeys to apparently innocuous topics. My favorite example is Journey to a Slug. And people would say, well, why would you do a journey to a slug? It's greasy and ugly and it's eating my garden, Well, I've done a journey to a slug and it was incredible, right? To discover what these beings are and how these creatures work and how they are part of the food chain. But the point is this: we're discovering, and we've, in our 350 recorded journeys, that's how many we have. It's how much fun we have doing them. We kind of can't stop doing them. That everything is incredible and everything is awesome. It doesn't matter if it's a piece of granite. It doesn't matter if it's a memory of your ancestors. It doesn't matter if it's soaking into your trauma in a way that you hope to transform it. Everything can be discovered at a deeper level through this method, and however and whenever you're ready. Eventually people will be able to have access to a large portion of that library and choose what journey they want to go on with friends that attracts them. And yes, there are some people that say, wow, I really enjoyed that journey or that topic more than that topic. That's fine. If you're going to end up with 1,000 journey topics, you can pick and choose. And of course, what we hope will happen in the beginning of the growth of the Curious Live or Wakuri community is that you're going to recommend journey topics, things we have never imagined. And as you start to learn to create your own journeys for your own audiences and clients, you're going to come up with topics relevant to them, as Leah talked about. There is that moment in a sacred space where you often find yourself speaking, if you're facilitating or leading, to exactly the need of that group. Well, now we're dealing virtually, and so we're imagining that group. But I'll give you an example. Some people who've been in the recent California fires have approached us and asked us to do journeys to the transformation of evacuation or the transformation of the fears around fires, about returning home or not. So we're going to do that. We're going to find a series of topics related to their traumas and their fears and their PTSD that we hope will be helpful for them. So I actually completely agree with Leah. There is no topic that you cannot go deeper into. And if you're in that higher flow state we're talking about, there would be some benefit for someone somewhere on this planet.
I think this leads to another important point, Dan, is about the power of the imagery that is evoked during a journey. So even if the topic can be challenging and stretch us, such as returning to a traumatic event and going into that journey, I think the power of the natural imagery and the emergence of the vocabulary and the flow of the image that comes as part of the journey and just being on that and allowing yourself to proceed through it is actually very healing and transformative. So, for example, going into outer space and imagining outer space and what that may be like and the expansiveness and great possibility of that. The deep imagery that you evoke within yourself by going into such a journey is actually transformative within you, because it allows you, moving through time and space, to actually experience that outer realm inside of your mind. And we now know that with physics and the development of all of the new measurements with the biofield, etc., that we actually have a greater capacity than we ever thought possible in the past. We have a great capacity to transform using our own mind, using our own heart, and using our own intent. So by moving into a new space and by allowing ourselves to visualize something in a detailed way, it can completely open us to something new and it can shift us from moment to moment.